Well, good evening. This is Stephen Bones of Smoke Signals, and this is my Wednesday wisdom. And I've got the amazing Claire Poho with me that's very kindly going to share her journey with you. She's in Colombia at the moment. When I first met Claire and we did some work together was quite a few years ago, and I'm sure she'll give you the detail. And it was. She was, I think, somewhere around about Switzerland or Italy or somewhere in Europe at that given time. But I want Claire to share her story with you because I think it's an amazing story. You'll notice I've got a bare wall behind me. That's because I'm at the White Light events Mind, Body, Spirit in Matlock on Saturday, and then the following weekend is Urmston in Manchester. So you'll catch up with those amazing master healers and myself on the Smoke Signals stand any one of those 2 days. That's whitelightevents.co.uk. If you're in the Derbyshire stroke, Manchester, South Yorkshire, any of those areas that are within distance of Liverpool, perhaps in distance of Matlock and Urmston. So, with that said, I'm now going to ask Claire a really interesting question because Claire is the Radiance Queen, and I'm excited to know your journey that brought you to being the Radiance Queen. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing that, Claire.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. Wow, share my journey in how much detail? Um, I think when we first met was over 5 years ago. I was stuck in COVID lockdowns in the Czech Republic, and then the COVID journey took me around the world through Italy and Portugal and Switzerland and Taiwan and back to Europe, and now I am indeed in Colombia. So it's been quite a journey knowing Stephen over the past 5+ years for sure. And Stephen has played a very important part in my journey of reclaiming my radiance and my power, my femininity, my sensuality, my lust for life, and all of that. So I really have to thank him for a lot of the amazing work that we have done together. Started out as friends, just sort of practicing these esoteric tools that we have been taught by our former mentors, and then because I just felt so safe with him, and I saw how dedicated he was to this journey. I decided to choose him as my one-on-one coach, and it was a very, very good choice. So my journey, I was sort of drawn to inner work. Just I think, as maybe old souls, I would say like there's some of us that really feel drawn to the mysteries of life, or like we go through life and we just feel like there's got to be more, right? Like that's how I always describe it when I talk to the women that I want to work with that sort of share a similar journey. It's this like we're building these amazing lives, and I know that you also resonate with that story, right, Stephen? Like building a business or building an amazing life that looks amazing on the outside. But there's always this like nagging feeling of is this it?
Yeah.
Like, is this all there is to life? Is this really it? Like, am I, like, I guess, like, I have all the things, right? Like, I've checked all the boxes, or I'm in the process of checking the boxes, like, as for my case, like, I was still studying, but I was studying at like the best universities, around the world, like, including in England, and Cambridge, and then I was in China, like the Harvard of China, and like, I'm collecting all these fancy degrees and traveling the world, whereas I come from the Czech Republic, from a small town in the east where, nobody growing up, I didn't know anybody who even managed to move abroad for a few months. And I'm living this life, right? And then you're kind of like, is this really it? Like, is that, am I just gonna get my degrees and then get some fancy job, and do the thing, right? Like, am I supposed to be just happy, like being in the rat race? And so I started listening to podcasts, and then people kept talking about meditation and meditation and meditation. And I was like, that's interesting. And then eventually COVID happened, and it really just like pushed me in that direction, or pushed me. It pushed, pulled, all the things, right? It
It
brought
led
me
you
in.
there. It led you there. Yeah.
And I just started being fascinated. And then the more I was discovering things and people, I was like, oh my God, I need to know more. I need to know more. I need to know more. And I'm sure you resonate with that too, like just like, wow, like what, let's just, I remember like when we met and we were like, let's just try to do these practices. And Stephen and I would jump on a short call every day pretty much during COVID and do this like 10-minute practice of like, what can we feel? How much can we be present to whatever's going on in our bodies and, in the field between us? What can I be present to? What intuition, insights can drop in when I, just be present for 10 minutes. And so I was fascinated and I started doing this work just kind of curious, right? And to be honest with you, starting out, I had no idea how much heaviness I was carrying with me and how much trauma essentially I had in my body. And, just growing up in a society that has gone through a lot of collective trauma over the past centuries, right? Like it's not necessarily even just my trauma, but just the society's so repressed and although it's a very different kind of society, like I know that, the society where you live and your audience lives, it's there's different kinds of collective norms, but there's also a lot of repression, right? And it's like, it's not okay to express yourself. It's not okay to have these kinds of emotions. It's not okay to be too joyful or whatever. There's this fear of like, people will judge me. Um, so yeah, just have carrying all this weight. And as I started doing this work, I remember I was once, I was like sitting with this like lower back pain, and then I was listening to a podcast, and these people are saying, um, yeah, like I would try just like Googling for the fun of it, like, certain like discomfort and like metaphysical meaning. And I'm like, that's interesting. And I tried that, and something about repressed sexuality came out. And then I was kind of just meditating with it on the floor. And all of a sudden, like this memory came that it wasn't, it was kind of innocent, like something that my mom said when I was maybe 7 years old. And I was like, oh my God, like this has made me think that, this whole part of my life was completely unapproachable, like just so inappropriate. And I think, that's something that a lot of people could resonate with, even though they don't have this kind of story. It's like, oh, like if I even suggest that, something like sexuality exists, like I'm a bad little girl, basically, because like people are like laughing at me that I like did something I didn't, intend to do anything, right? And I was like, wow, like there's a lot of repressed like fear and just like avoidance. And eventually through going through this journey, I realized how much, yeah, like just like how much fear I had and how I was reinforcing the fear and the experience instead of creating stories around men. And yeah, like the more we sort of perpetuate a story, the more we reinforce it, the more we create experiences that corroborate the story that we tell ourselves in our minds. And eventually I realized I was carrying a lot of, honestly, like dread and terror around men. And it wasn't, it was completely unconscious because these things, they're so dark or so weird or so scary or so hard to admit that we have repressed them so deep into our subconscious minds because we can't even bear to look at them.
Yeah, can I just come in at this point? So for people
Absolutely.
that are listening to this, and that's why I wanted you to join me on a call because you have an amazing story. But the interesting thing is, I was listening to Greg Braden the other day, and he was pointing to the science. So the ones that are listening to this that need facts, this is an actual fact, and science have now proved that when a baby comes into this world, when they're born, they're in the theta state of consciousness. In other words, they're in an altered state of consciousness until they're around 7 years old. So everything that Claire's talking about here, when it's deep into a subconscious, is because it's they're in a hypnotic state in effect. So the child is in a hypnotic state, and we all are when we come in, and we're taking these things in without realizing it, and then we carry them through our lives, and that's what Claire's pointing to, and it's an amazing description, but I just wanted to bob that in, Claire, because people sometimes need science, don't they, to verify this.
Absolutely. And you know what? I want to actually provide the full context of what happened when I was around maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old, because we talk about trauma a lot, and people are like, I don't have trauma, right? Because it's a big word. But we make this distinction between trauma with a capital T, like something really bad that happened, and, trauma with a small t, which could be something so innocent and you wouldn't remember, but it can still pretty much shape the rest of your life. And this is what happened to me when I was pretty much making like gingerbread cookies with my mom, and we were putting like raisins on top of it to decorate them. And one of the, I'm just putting all my raisins all over, and one of the raisins that I was putting on the cookie, on like this figure, happened to be in between the figure's legs, right? And I'm just like putting cookies, like mindlessly, joyfully. And there was a living room full of people, like full of adults. And my mom takes the cookie and she goes over to the living room and says, ha ha ha, look where she put this raisin. And I overheard it, right? As like this little innocent child. And I hear my mom mocking me as I have done something wrong that I shouldn't have. And I'm being ridiculed, like I've done something that's inappropriate. And so my tiny little brain at that point said, oh my God, I did something wrong. I did something inappropriate. I'm a bad girl. I should never even hint at the fact that there's a space between, a figure's legs that makes me bad and wrong, and people are going to laugh at me. And so that happened, and that was so innocent. And I told my mom about it once, and she was like, I would never ever do that. And I'm like, Mom, like, I remembered that when I was trying to connect with whatever was going on in my lower back for like
Mm,
my entire life until then. And this memory popped in, and I didn't remember that until I did, right?
mm,
And I realized that this was running my life. And I was like, wow, I had never had a relationship in my life, because unconsciously, I was terrified that if I did have a relationship, my parents would think that I'm having sex with a man. And my 5-year-old brain was like, if I'm having sex, my parents are going to reject me.
mm.
And like that's not like
Yeah,
my parents would not reject me, but like my 5-year-old brain felt that.
correct.
And this is human biology. So like imagine growing up, if our parents reject us, we would literally die. And so it's an unconscious survival mechanism, right? It's like I can never ever do this because my parents might reject me and that would mean death. And so like unconsciously we like make these commitments of like I'm never going to talk about sex because that's bad, right? And
Mm.
so this thing was running my life and I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I get that, and that's the whole thing where when you look into the science of it, of the deep, you were deeply in hypnosis when that landed, like we all are, and we don't realize it lands. And I suspect you didn't realize at the time that you were creating a coping mechanism that then became a pattern, and then you were holding that in your body
yeah,
in the shape of pain in the back, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. And in our world, we call that dis-ease. And if you break disease down and bring it into dis-ease, that's what happens with these woundings, these traumas, whether they've got a capital T or a small one, they create this dis-ease within the system. And that's where seeking out support around that massively helps, like you did. It was just amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So can you remember actually releasing that and how that came about?
for sure. It was a process of, that went on for maybe 3 years, and or like longer. There's stages to it. So the first time I ever
Can
came in
I
contact.
can I can I just interrupt there for people? I would just want that to land. It took around about 3 years, and I just want to point to that that healing isn't sometimes fairy dust being sprinkled over people. It's it's allowing the work to happen. It's allowing it to be when it's ready to move, it moves. And when I'm doing energy work, healing work, using journeying, like soul retrieval work, it might be that the person isn't ready to release something. So because it's spirit led, spirit won't show me that, or they'll tell me to leave it where it is, because at that time they're not ready. So, and if the system's not ready to let go, then we just have to have faith. And I suspect you must have had a lot of faith at that time to run with it, or were you just listening to the teachings and just surrendering to whatever the journey was?
I would say, yeah, just surrendering. Just honestly, yeah, like I think, like I became aware of the piece that I just shared
Mm,
right at the beginning of this journey. Literally through like the process that I described, like Googling this thing and then just like lying down on the floor in meditation, and this memory popped, and then I had this realization. And I was working with a different coach at that point who picked up on one of our coaching calls when I was talking about a party where somebody approached me, and he picked up on it immediately when I didn't have that awareness at that point. He was like, "What's that? Like, why did you just something in your energy shifted when you said that a male approached to dance with you?" And then he guided me through a process, and I like froze there right on that Zoom call with my coach. And so I started becoming aware of these things, but I was not ready at all to approach that, release that. Like I started slowly kind of finding some language for it, but still, like I didn't really have the language or wasn't able to quite even voice what happened to me, because unfortunately, because I was carrying this, I then attracted or created situations that then created like deeper trauma for me, because I was so repressed. And then unfortunately we live in a culture where people are like, oh, like you should go and have these experiences. And so when I was around 19, 20 years old, and somebody, made a comment that it was weird that I had not had sexual experiences, I felt like something was wrong with me. And because of this thing that was running my life, that I, was a good girl, that I could not have initiated or desired an experience like that. And so I allowed myself, or I allowed men to do things to me that I wasn't really consenting to. But on the outside, it looked like I was consenting, but on the inside I wasn't, because a part of me felt like something was wrong with me for not having these experiences, but I didn't really want these experiences, right, in those circumstances. And so what is so important to realize, I think, especially for all the women here, because, I mean, for everyone, but I think for women especially, because we're so sensitive, like every experience that was sexual, or even maybe not, all the way, but like every time we interact with somebody intimately, be it even just like kissing on the dance floor, but like you don't really feel safe with this person because you don't know them, it's traumatic for the body.
mm,
Just like actually, even just as a child going to the doctors, and like, your parents are telling you you have to let the doctor do something to you,
mm,
and you feel terrified, you don't feel safe, and you're just allowing somebody do something to your body, which you don't want them to do. It's violating your space, it's violating your body, and your body remembers all of
mm.
it, and it creates trauma, and it lives in the body. And so
Yeah.
we start storing this trauma, and it's like literally just we start like grasping, and our tissues start becoming rigid, and it lives in the body. And so I did not realize how much trauma was in my body from such experiences when my body felt violated,
Mm,
because, and like somebody who did something to me that they had no idea that they did to me. And it was so hard for me, and it took honestly years to even just find the language for it, because it's like, what happened? Nothing happened, but everything happened, because nobody, did something wrong to me, but it felt very wrong to my body. And so through these experiences, because I did not know any better, and because again, as a child, people teach you like, oh, you have to let the doctor do this to you. You have to let auntie or uncle hug you or kiss you, even if you don't want to. Be a good girl, be a good child. So we are taught that we just let people do things to us. And
yeah.
sincerely, I didn't know that I could say no, that
Mm,
I was in charge of my body.
yeah. And that's a
Yeah.
huge point. It's the choices that we have, unfortunately. And it's like your parents didn't know any better, and it's not their fault. So anybody that's listening to this, it's not your parents' fault. It's not our parents' fault because they don't know any better either, because they went through the same experiences and they think that's what we call normal. And what is normal? Your experiences are different to mine. My experience are different to yours. We all experience life from very, very poor uh, uh, people with no money, homeless, maybe to the hugely wealthy. We're all experience different types of lives, but the core wounding is still the same. Um, you can feel very isolated if you're in a low income place. You can't get work. You don't know what job jobs are out there, and then yet you can be hugely wealthy and still feel the same isolation, but for different reasons why you're isolated. And it's those choices that we make to change that. And I just want to thank you for your vulnerability there with your story and what you shared, because I'm sure anybody listening to this, it will help them. Because it's you chose to change, and that's the whole thing. You chose to address it. You knew it was there. And I was just the same as you. I was carrying trauma, and I kept getting drawn to hypnosis. And I worked with a psychotherapist that used hypnosis as a tool. And my first release was the same thing. And interestingly enough, similar to you, I just had this vision of my mother and father at the table, and I was an only child. I was in the middle. I was only about 5, and then all the chaos started around that story. And she took me back to that story, and I remember those like flashes of like a television or a photograph that would flash across and flash in and go, and I wouldn't even really notice it until that hypnosis happened. That was like in an altered state of consciousness. That's what it's about. Um, till I had that release. And as soon as she took me to that place, it was like, wow, it was amazing. And it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. And so that brings me to where when you released, how did that feel? What sort of, where did that take you?
Yeah. And and you know that, and I mean, I still haven't answered that question. Like, there were many stages and many moments, some of them like very, very big, but there were multiple moments that
Like
led.
incremental, because healing a lot of the time, as you know and I know, but many people watching this might not know, it's like incremental. We talk about peeling each layer of the onion back. That's what
Yeah.
you're sort of pointing to, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm,
So yeah, so in my case, it started with the awareness of like that childhood memory, and then slowly I was sort of realizing that something was in my field. Like, I had this uneasiness around men, around my sexuality. And then the next thing that happened, maybe half a year later or many months later, was when I was kind of came across these women who were like so expressed and talking about their femininity and da da da. And I was so triggered, and I was like, these women. And then I was like, why am I so triggered?
mm,
I was like, oh, and I was so uncomfortable just watching these women and talk about all these things and just being so in their power and their like feminine power, like being like sensual and this. And I
mm,
was like, I have a choice. I either continue to judge them and be disgusted by them, or I lean in.
mm,
And it was terrifying. And so I leaned in, and I forced myself to like learn more about the work that they were. And some of them were like, I really went and like dove into the extreme. Like, I literally got like, I got sick. Like, I was physically
mm,
sick for like a week just from the discomfort. But like, signed up for like a Tantra program where like this woman was teaching about pleasure. And I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm the last person to be here. But I was like, I'm just gonna do that just because of the discomfort, like just to touch the discomfort. Like, even if I just sit here and do nothing, like, and
mm,
just feel terrible and ashamed of myself for being in
mm.
this room, I'm just gonna sit here with my shame. And
Wow.
so like that was the next step, to just like approach the shame, approach the things that made me feel bad and wrong, and like be with the shame, be with the disgust, be with the inappropriateness, right? And then I think the next like big part of my journey was when I was doing this work again and I chose Stephen as my coach. And there was really this moment one day when I was telling him about some guy who offered me a job. And I'm just kind of like talking through it. Should I take the job? Should I not? And Stephen says, well, I don't think I mean, something with this guy, right? Like, why didn't you feel safe around this guy? And I just look back at him and out of nowhere, I blurt out, because I don't feel safe around any man. And it just came out of me. Like I was never aware of that being the truth, or like I never saw that, right?
Mm,
Or contemplated that. And I just broke down
mm,
in like a terror attack.
mm,
Like I wasn't even able to say a word or make a sound. I just sat there and cried silently in absolute sheer panic and
mm,
terror for like an hour.
mm. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And then you said, we were scheduled to have sessions like every 2 weeks. And he was like, tomorrow we're going to sit here again.
Yeah.
And then the third day he sat with me again. And just like like for 3 days straight, he just sat with me for an hour.
Mm,
And I was just shaking in terror.
mm. And that's,
Yeah.
for anybody listening, that's what we call in process. So Claire at that point was ready to release, and that's why she verbalized it and named it. And then the body goes into this shock, this that, and it can be for me. I remember the same. Mine was very quick. Mine was like, well, I say quick. I thought it was 10 minutes had gone by, but I was on a couch for 2 hours, and I was laid down, shaking and crying, very much the same as you were. But yours was like 3 days. Mine was like
It
two.
was longer than that, right?
Yeah,
But like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
that's not everybody's experience, but that at that time was yours. And yeah, the what an amazing, and for me to help you and support you in that was quite an amazing feeling to be able to do that. And that's why I'm in this space, why I try and help people, and I know you're the same with what you're doing. We're trying to connect with people and help them and support them, because we both know that once you go through this sort of healing, that life just takes on a different mode. We become radiant, don't we?
We
Awesome.
do.
Awesome.
Do.
I want
Yeah.
to thank you for sharing that and your journey and where you are. And I know you've got loads to share. I just want to point something out that you're very, what can I say? I'm looking for the right word, but this lady is amazing. She's what's called a polyglot. How many languages do you speak?
I speak 8 languages.
She speaks 8 languages, and she didn't explain that in a story when she was telling you all about her degrees. And how many degrees have you got?
Only 2 degrees, but
She,
I like
like,
started and
oh,
then dropped out, and
yeah,
I've been around.
only 2 degrees, but those were the ones that she sat and went through. She still retains that knowledge of lots of other studying she did, and that you are amazing in what you do and where you've come from. And I wanted to just point out, and I wanted to honor you for that academia you have, because again, people can watch this. I'm exactly the opposite. I sort of kept flunking at school. It was not my thing. I didn't want to know. So I'm very little academia at all. And you, to me, are the hierarchy of academia. And so it just shows people it doesn't matter where we've come from or what experiences we've had in life, we've still got this ability to heal if we just acknowledge it and go with it. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah, if I can, just want to make a quick
yeah,
note
by
about
all
that,
means, yeah.
that for me, like that was like that was me. I was the smart girl because of all that. I never saw myself as like a pretty girl or like a girly girl, you know. So I was the smart girl because I was
Mm,
smart. And so I was so attached to that, to being
mm,
smart because I felt like that was the one thing that I had. And I don't know, maybe you relate, for example, with, you know, the success you had in your business, right?
mm.
Like you have that one thing and it's like that's where I derive my worth from. And so
Yes,
I was upset or like I was terrified of people thinking that I was not smart or not smart enough. And like
yes,
I was terrified of expressing my opinions. It's like, what if people judge my opinion as not informed enough or like I'm not smart enough because I don't have like the better opinion or whatever.
yes,
And you know, and it was like it was so paralyzing to like constantly policing myself. Like, if I say this, is it smart enough? What are people thinking about me? And I just want to say, you know, like, yeah, the Radiance Queen, like it's really, and it's not about, you know, my facial features or anything like that. I think it's really just this inner glow that we all have once we reconnect with our unique
yes,
essence and
absolutely.
just our soul, our passions, and like this spark, this lust for life that is
Mm,
create connected to our sensuality, our creative force, like all of these things are connected. And the more we shut down our unique expression and our sensuality and our joy, you know, our feelings, our emotions, the more we're just like hunkering down, and when we lose that spark and we're not attractive to anyone, not even to ourselves, and we try to prove our worth by being smart or rich
correct.
or
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's where I came from. I came from a very chaotic childhood. My mother was a narcissist. My father came from very humble beginnings. He married, it was those days when he married my mother because he got her in what they used to call in the family way, i.e., she was carrying me. So he did the right thing and married her. And then when I was somewhere around about 6 years old, they actually split up, which of course I was in that theta state and taking all that trauma on. But you're quite right. My whole big thing, there's something that was missing for me, and my coping mechanism was I need to make money. And what I learned to do was that I could engage with people and I could sell things to people. And that's what I started doing. And you absolutely nailed it with what you said. I got to, for me, it was huge, like a business with 3 million turnover, 20 staff, three warehouses, and we were making really good money. And you know what? I remember I was bored. I did not want to go into work anymore because I'd driven and driven with that passion and enthusiasm, or just drive, what we call it, and got there. And when I got there, it was like, is this it?
is the set.
What's going on? And we could go on holiday when we wanted to, and it was like, in bear in mind this was round about 2008, just as we went into the financial crisis, and our business, the business we were in at that time, took off because we were geared up to that sort of market, to a recession, and it just grew, kept growing, and we were able to go out for meals, and we just like take the kids out for tea once a week or something like that. And our friends were astounded because all their incomes were getting cut back, and we were living that life, and all that got taken away. And that for and I look back and I firmly believe it got taken away because the
Mm,
spirit, the universe, creator, you whatever you want to call it, took that away, because this is what I'm meant to be doing. Because this, which I've been doing for 6 years, and you know what? I do this, I make very little money from it. I have a company and I've costs and I'm taking on shows. And if I break even at those shows and I get connect with people, that's really what I'm looking for. And okay, I've got to pay my bills and I still work 3 days a week during the week, 9 to 5. And I would like to pack that up. So I keep going and I have to charge for my services to be able to do that. But you know what? I'm so passionate about this. So I'm not really, whereas before I was looking to make mega millions and have a big house and a huge car and all the rest of it. And I'm not knocking that. If that's what people intend to do, that's fantastic. And there's nothing wrong with it as long as what you nailed there, as we do it from this connected place, from this regulated system, that we can get that wounding out of the way and begin on the path. And when we do it from here, that's why you and I are so passionate about, we're in the same field, but even if we were in different fields, you get passionate about what you do because you're taken to it from the heart space. We're drawn to doing what we're doing from the heart space. And that's what it's all about. And for me, it's healing people. I'm not a healer per se, but I facilitate a healing that comes through me and through these master drums as well, that you can't see because they're packed away for a show on Saturday. So yeah, you nailed it. I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that. That's brilliant. Thank
Yeah.
you. So we're going to close it at that, guys. I want to thank Claire again so much for her vulnerability, and any of you that watch this that helps you and you can relate to it. It gives you some, whoever you work with, or contact us if you want to for more information, but it just gives you knowledge that you can come through this, and we can come through everything that we're carrying and feeling. We just have to start that slow steps of getting there. So I want to thank you again. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we will catch you next time and see what the content is then and what the story is. I hope you enjoy Claire's story as much as I do. Thank you. Cheers and good night.